Good morning, all. Respected participants, it is indeed my privilege to welcome and present the resource person of this session, Professor Dr. Sandeep Bhatt, Professor of Law at the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata. Professor Dr. Sandeep Bhatt obtained his LLB degree from Bangalore University in 2001 with third rank and a gold medal, and completed his master's from Mysore University in the year 2003 with the first rank and 2 gold medals, and obtained his PhD on space law from the same university in 2009. Dr. Bhatt has more than 15 years of teaching and research experience at National Law School of India, University Bangalore and NUJS Kolkata. Dr. Bhatt has experience of researching on 4 major research projects funded by World Bank, ISRO, West Bengal Judicial Academy and Ministry of Justice, Government of India. He has the distinction of being the member of International Institute of Space Law, Paris, France. He is the founding editor-in-chief of the Asian Journal of Air and Space Law, and is also associated with various other publications in different capacities. He has authored a number of books on space law and medical law. He has more than 40 articles to his credit in the journals of international and national reputation. He has presented more than 50 research papers in different conferences across the world. In his administrative capacity, Professor Bhatt is the coordinator of postgraduate diploma in air and space law and postgraduate diploma in public health care and medical laws at NUJS Kolkata. He is also the member of ISRO Expert Advisory Group for drafting the National Space Act for India. On behalf of Sri Dharmasthala Manjunatheshwara Law College and St. Joseph Engineering College, we extend a very cordial welcome to you, sir. We also welcome all the beloved participants to this session. Now, Dr. Sandeep Bhatt will enlighten us on artificial intelligence in medicine, concerns to be addressed. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Very good morning to all of you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. I should first of all actually congratulate SDM Law College and St. Joseph Engineering College for such a collaborative event, that too in the difficult times, the current the COVID-19 situation. I think actually innovation has yielded the result. The joint result has actually, joint endeavor has resulted in actually such kind of a wonderful initiative from both institutions. It's also my privilege to deliver the lecture in this the joint event. Now, before starting my lecture, let me make a confession, an honest confession, that I'm not an expert in the field of artificial intelligence. My work has been more in terms of law of medicine, and therefore my presentation here is more in terms of actually the artificial intelligence in law of medicine. How exactly actually artificial intelligence has been used over the period of the time in medicine or maybe in public healthcare the system, and consequently what are the major problems which have been faced. My major area is only that aspect and not the artificial intelligence in general. So please excuse me for any ignorance in terms of the technical aspects of artificial intelligence. I'm more into the application of the artificial intelligence in the field of the medicine. Okay, so with that, let me start. Can someone change the slide? Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to use the laptop. The software is actually not working in my laptop, so I had to rely on the organizers for changing the slide. So yeah, so I should apologize for that. Right. Let me start. As all of you must be knowing that the developments in 20th century have been enormous. Most people believe that 20th century has been a century of the innovation. Especially if you look into the first half of the 20th century, A lot of developments took place in terms of the development of atomic energy, of course, resulting in destruction in the World War. At the same point of time, other technologies in the field of medicine, maybe in the field of the deep seabed mining, aviation technology, all these things developed in the first half of the 20th century. Then the second half saw the developments in terms of the space exploration, also different kind of intellectual property rights. In fact, the intellectual property rights were developing earlier also, but the second part of the 20th century saw enormous development in the intellectual property rights. Then we can also see that during this period of the time, even the information technology and artificial intelligence was also developing. Artificial intelligence was also actually developing simultaneously with the advent of computers and subsequently with the advent of internet. For the first time in 1956, John McCarthy, the American computer scientist, he basically coined the term artificial intelligence, and which is primarily for the purpose of denoting the use of computers and technology to simulate the intelligent behavior and critical thinking comparable to that of the human being. So in other words, actually, it's an attempt to substitute the human brain with the help of intelligent behavior as well as the critical faculty or the critical thinking which we have as the human brain. Even though the developments were taking place, most people believed that it is not possible to duplicate the human brain. The international community was under the understanding that what is the God's creation cannot be duplicated by the human being, and it's almost impossible to match with the human brain. That was an understanding maybe till 1990s. 1997 has been a turning point, because this was the time when the IBM developed the Deep Blue. Of course, they started in 1985 itself. Earlier also, they made several attempts to show the significance of artificial intelligence. But in 1997, the first time, the IBM's Deep Blue defeated the world chess champion, Garry Kasparov, which was a kind of actually the measure of the intellect, right? So, because chess is the game of intelligent people, that's what is the belief. And at the same point of time, the Garry Kasparov undoubtedly is actually one of the best players of the chess whom the humanity has evidenced over the period of time. 1997, for the first time, Garry Kasparov was defeated by Deep Blue. And one might be actually surprised. The IBM's Deep Blue was capable of actually thinking 200 million moves in 1 second. 200 million moves in 1 second, unimaginable, right? So that many moves it was capable of actually doing it, and also actually finding out the best move out of that. It was capable of doing that. So therefore, it was very clear that the artificial intelligence, in a way, is taking the front stage. International community, for the first time, got to know that it is possible to overtake the human brain with the help of actually the artificial intelligence. That's the reason why the innovative thinking in terms of the artificial intelligence developed much after 1997. And a lot of actually other things happened. Even other games have also been developed. Even some other difficult brain games, they have also been cracked by the computers and artificial intelligence. And we can see that the best of the best people have been defeated by the artificial intelligence in those games as well. What exactly is done in the artificial intelligence, especially when it is being made applicable to the field of medicine or healthcare, is to use the algorithms. There will be use of a lot of algorithms, and what the machine or the computer would do is that it would learn from the data whatever has been fed to it. Of course, it requires the feeding of a lot of data, the computer. But what the artificial intelligence does is that it recognizes a particular pattern and creates its own logic in terms of actually the data, whatever has been fed. To be very simple, say hypothetically, if say the data of 1,000 people are fed to this particular machine, and out of that 800 people have a particular pattern. In that, actually hypothetically, you have A plus B is C in those 800 people. In that case, the artificial intelligence of the computer would recognize this particular pattern, and it can create its own logic that in almost all of the cases, A plus B would amount to C. So that's how it creates a logic which is almost parallel to that of the human logic. But I'm not going to say that actually it's exactly same as the human logic, but almost parallel to that of the human logic. In the field of medicine, as well as healthcare, artificial intelligence has been used in many ways, both virtually as well as physically. There has been uses in both ways, virtual as well as the physical the way. And one of the advantages of the artificial intelligence has been that it does not have any kind of a human limitation. It can work for 24 hours, 7 days a week without any kind of a limitation. And it does not have the limitations like the sleeplessness or the problems associated with the physical or psychological issues which the human beings quite often face. So precisely because of these reasons, the artificial intelligence has been found to be very, very useful in terms of actually providing medicine or maybe in terms of actually public healthcare system. Can you go to the next slide, please? Right. If I have to highlight certain uses of the artificial intelligence in medicine, I'm not going to say that these are the only uses. I'm pointing out the major uses of the artificial intelligence in the field of medicine or public healthcare system. First of all, electronic health records. Nowadays, one of the major problems faced by the hospital across the globe is to maintain the health records. If you look into the big hospitals, most of these hospitals would have thousands of patients on everyday basis. There would be visits of actually few thousands of patients on everyday basis. If their health records need to be maintained for years together, physical maintenance might require a building as big as the hospital itself. There might be requirement of actually keeping at least maybe say 50 rooms in the hospital for the purpose of keeping the records itself for years together. Especially whenever a particular patient comes back after maybe a year or maybe after a couple of years for the purpose of actually a treatment, in that circumstances, it becomes extremely difficult for the administrators of the hospital to find out the records, because they would have been placed in such a huge quantities that it would become impossible for any administrator to find out the records of the patient. So mining of the records would also become very, very difficult in case of actually the physical file keeping. Because of these reasons, artificial intelligence or the computers have been extensively used in the modern period of time by the hospital for both record keeping as well as mining of the records. Probably you might have seen that whenever a doctor gives the prescription in big hospital, that would be scanned. The administrators would scan that and keep a separate file in the computer. And whatever actually the report comes with respect to any diagnosis, that report copy would also be kept along with the file of the concerned patient, which would be really useful for the purpose of actually keeping the record and also for the purpose of mining the records, because in any point of time, if a patient reaches the hospital, they can simply mine the record by just logging in actually some say either the mobile number or maybe actually the name of the patient, or even actually the search with the help of a particular file name, etc. So that's why whatever was taking a lot of time earlier in terms of finding the records of the patient has been reduced down drastically, maybe for a minute or maybe less than a minute to mine the records at present. So that's one of the most significant uses of the artificial intelligence in the field of healthcare system. Next, I think almost all of us have AI-enabled wearables. Nowadays, people being health conscious, we would like to have a minimum number of walking on every day. You would like to have at least a proper sleep, proper diet, etc. So for all these things, we have the artificial intelligence-enabled wearables, the watches, which can count actually the steps, how many steps we walk on everyday basis. So counting 3,000 steps has become quite easy now with the help of this the AI-enabled watches. Sleep advisors advise on the diet and fitness, what to eat, what not to eat, what kind of exercises to be done for the purpose of fitness. All these things would be done with the help of the AI-enabled wearables. We have the health trackers like Fitbit, Apple, and other kind of the health trackers, which are also used for the purpose of monitoring the heart rate, activity levels, sleep levels, and even the ECG tracking. Even the ECG trackings are also being done with the help of all these health trackers, which is very, very useful for the people monitoring the heart rate and the finding out or maybe early detection of actually the possibility of the heart attack, or maybe activity levels, how much of the activity has been done for the purpose of keeping the physical fitness, sleep level, right? So say how much of actually the deep sleep, which is very essential for everyone, has been enjoyed by a person everyday basis. All these things are really helpful in terms of the keeping ourselves fit. Next, the AI is also used in terms of guidance in treatment. One of the classic examples is a device called Babylon, which has been developed in UK, which can be used by the patient to consult the doctors online. Right. So, in other words, through the video conferencing or through the process of telemedicine, one can consult the doctor. One can check the symptoms, whatever symptoms they are having with respect to a particular kind of a disease. They can check it and find out what might be the disease. They can get the advices with respect to what steps need to be taken immediately for the purpose of preventing the aggravation of the problem. One can monitor the health, and also one can order the test kit through this particular system. So if somebody wants to find out what could have been the disease or what could have been the problem, they can also even order the test kit with the help of actually this particular the program or the device. So therefore, it is enormously helpful even in terms of giving guidance in the treatment. Next slide, please. Right. AIQ is an application developed by the National Institute of Health of the United States, which has also been used for the purpose of monitoring the use of medications by the patients via the smartphone. So one of the major problems, especially in case of the elderly patients or maybe somebody who is having the psychological ailment, is the continuous use of medication. Unfortunately, what happens is that these kind of patients might forget the medication, which would result in actually the far-reaching consequences. Or sometimes, even after consumption of the medicine also, they are not very sure whether they have consumed it or not, which might also result in actually taking the medication once again on the same day, which is also detrimental to the health of the people. All these things can be avoided with the help of this AI cure used in the smartphone. The AI cure basically gives alarm to the patient when to take a medicine, and also once the medication has been taken, it also keeps the record of that. So a person who forgets the taking of the medicine can revert back to it and can find out whether he or she has taken the medicine for the day. So that's why it reduces on the one hand the non-adherence the rate with respect to the consumption of the medicine, and on the other hand it also prevents the possibility of the overdosage by taking the medicine more than once or maybe more than whatever has been prescribed by the doctor. So AIQ has been found enormously useful in terms of actually monitoring the use of the medications by the patient. Next, AI therapy has been developed at the University of Sydney, which is an online course that helps the patient to treat their social anxiety. Evidences show that it has been enormously helpful in preventing a lot of suicides in Australia. People having the social anxiety or having certain psychological disorders or maybe having suicidal tendencies can use this particular AI therapy for the purpose of coming out of their anxiety. Right. So if the people having some suicidal tendency are intervened at the right moment, then it can be prevented. So AI therapy has been found very useful in terms of actually preventing many suicides in Australia. Next, artificial intelligence is also used for the drug development. It's useful in terms of actually finding out what may be the outcome of mixing different components. So therefore, actually, it is used in terms of drug development on the one hand. On the other hand, it is also useful in terms of identifying the clinical trial participants. Clinical trial is one of the most significant stages in terms of actually the developing the medicine. As all of us know, that even for COVID-19, there is a lot of actually stages which has to be undergone for the purpose of finding a vaccine. Clinical trial is the most significant thing, wherein actually everything can be detected, how effective the medicine is, and then what are the side effects. All these things need to be actually mapped first before actually commercializing the medicine or using the medicine. But in clinical trial, one of the most significant steps is the identification of the trial participants. You can't randomly pick some people for the purpose of the clinical trial. And what is more important is to find out the participant or the patient having the different kind of symptoms, who have got actually different kind of the symptoms. This is very crucial because the medicine has to affect all kind of the patients. It should not be only certain kind of the patients, but it should be helpful for curing the disease of all kind of a patient having different kind of the symptoms. And not just that, there may be a possibility that certain sect of the people might be developing certain adverse consequences by the use of the drug. So precisely because of that reason, there is a requirement of actually taking into consideration the different kind of the patient or different kind of participants in the process of the clinical trial. And this can be done with the help of artificial intelligence easily. Another significant aspect in the drug development is to find out the drug-to-drug interaction. Again, something which is in the common knowledge for all of us. If multiple medicines are taken at the same point of time for different diseases, there is every possibility that actually it might result in some adverse effects. Right? There are certain side effects of actually the drug-to-drug interaction. So artificial intelligence is really useful in terms of actually finding out these adverse effects without actually keeping the participants at the risk of some kind of an adverse effect. We can't actually test it in such a way with the participants, the human participants, that we administer multiple drugs to them and find out what exactly is the adverse consequence. If we do that, we are not respecting the human rights. Rather, we are ending up actually causing serious injury or damage to actually the participants in the process of clinical trial. We will not be able to actually take care of the health of the participants in the process of the clinical trial. This can be avoided with the help of artificial intelligence technology, because it can predict what kind of actually the adverse effects might come out of the different kind of drug-to-drug interactions. Right? So that's why that's the reason why actually the using of the artificial intelligence is really useful. Right. The next slide, please. Okay. The next use, you can find it in the diagnosis. In most of the diseases, early detection and the treatment is really useful. Classic example is the cancer. Right? So at cancer, we all know that first stage of cancer is completely curable. Second is also to a greater extent. So what is very significant is to detect the cancer, development of cancer in the early stage itself, which is done with the help of artificial intelligence in the modern time. We can find technologies like deep learning based automatic detection, one of the technologies used for the purpose of analyzing the chest radiographs and to detect the abnormal cell growth, which is really useful in the early detection and the treatment. We also have another artificial intelligence technology by name lymph node assistant, which basically detects the lymph node in the earlier stage itself. So consequently, these tools of the artificial the intelligence have been really useful in early detection as well as actually the treatment of the diseases to cure them completely. Next, artificial intelligence has also been enormously useful in the surgeries. Robotic services. One of the classic examples is the Da Vinci robotic surgical system. The Da Vinci, the robotic surgical system, which primarily mimics a surgeon's hand movements with the better precision. It is possible to actually use these kind of robots for the purpose of actually doing the surgery with the pinpoint accuracy. Especially in complicated surgeries, it becomes very significant to have the incisions or maybe stitching everything actually with the pinpoint accuracy. There should not be any kind of the lacuna in terms of actually carrying on the surgery. And this can be better done with the help of the robotic services. That's why AI is also useful in the surgeries. Next slide, please. Another most significant use, or maybe a blessing for the people who are handicapped, is the intelligent prosthesis. Intelligent prosthesis. I think few people might have heard of people like blade runners, blade jumpers, who all won actually the gold medals in the international event. And these people didn't have a limb. Some of them having actually some of them not having actually a leg, or some of them whose the hand has been amputated due to some accident, etc. Those people have got a second life with the help of these intelligent processes, which have been used extensively for the purpose of doing the day-to-day activities in the similar fashion as they can do with the help of the human hand or maybe human leg. Right? So if we have the example, great example of the international level winners that clearly indicate that how effective these processes are in terms of actually substituting the human limb for the purpose of carrying on the day-to-day activities. We have 3D printed human body parts, blood vessels, and skin cells, which have been developed for the purpose of the rapid wound healing. Right? So even if the people are not having or maybe having some kind of a problem with their body parts, they can be replaced with the help of artificial intelligence enabled body parts. Especially the scarcity of the body parts for the purpose of the transforming may be taken care of with the help of artificial intelligence enabled body parts, which have been developed primarily in the western part of the world. So that's really useful for the purpose of saving the life of the people, as well as ensuring that their day-to-day activities are not hampered and they are not bedridden, primarily because of actually loss of certain body parts. Even a California-based company, Second Sight, has developed an artificial eye. It has developed an artificial eye, wherein actually a patient, a person who is blind, can also actually have a sight. Of course, it's not just like actually our normal sight, but still to a certain extent, they can have a vision and they can carry on their day-to-day activities with the help of this artificial eye. So that's why we are also finding a solution for the people who are completely blind since maybe birth or maybe at a later point of time. AI is also used in terms of elderly care, especially the virtual nurses, wherein actually the elderly people can interact with these virtual nurses and they can ask about what to do and what not to do. All these things can also be done. And even the robots have been developed for the purpose of rendering services, which can also be used for the purpose of caring the elderly people. Right? So they can substitute the usual human nurses and they can care the elderly people, maybe with a better precision. There has also been actually substantial aid in the radiology by the artificial intelligence technology. Because radiology is one field where there is a requirement of giving the appropriate dosage. It should be with the pinpoint accuracy. So radiological treatment should not result either in actually giving more dosage. If there is more dosage, then ultimately there is adverse consequences, side effects. But if there is a less dosage, also there is a problem because it would not result in curing the disease. So there is a requirement of accurate dosage to be provided in the field of radiology. And this dose optimization, the accurate dosage, can primarily be done with the help of artificial intelligence technology. Something which we need to keep in mind in radiology is that whenever actually you approach a radiologist, or maybe when the treatment has to be done to the patient, the radiologist would not be knowing what dosage would be suitable exactly for a human body. It varies from person to person, varies from the amount of disease to disease. So that is the reason why the radiologist has to actually make a trial and error and ultimately find out what is suitable to the human body, what is suitable to a particular patient. So that is why the patient needs to be continuously monitored. The response of the patient or the body response of the patient has to be looked into for the purpose of identifying what is the exact dosage required in a given patient. So this can be done with the help of artificial intelligence technology with greater precision as well as the speed. Unlike actually in the normal course where the human beings would take a lot of time in monitoring and also actually finding out exactly what is the body response, as well as actually finding out what is the optimal dose which has to be given. Artificial intelligence technology would be really useful in finding out actually the appropriate dosage in a speedier manner. So that's why it's also been used substantially in radiology, and it is said that probably the field of radiology is going to take a complete overhaul with the introduction, or maybe with the increased use of artificial intelligence. So with all these uses of artificial intelligence in the field of medicine, probably we are moving from our famous statement of Vaidyo Narayano Hari to the artificial intelligence Narayano Hari, right? So as we know, the doctor is the reincarnation of the God. So probably it is shifting into the artificial intelligence as the reincarnation of the God. Can you go to the next slide, please? An analysis in the United States shows that this is a potential advantage out of the use of artificial intelligence in the field of medicine. This much of actually the cost can be saved. Of course, artificial intelligence would be having the initial investment. There will be initial huge investment by the hospital. But over the period of time, the cost benefit analysis show in the United States that annually this much of a money can be saved in the United States. The analysis show that robot assisted surgery might result in a save of around 40 billion US dollars. Virtual nursing assistant can result in around 20 billion US dollars savings. Administrative workflow assistance, 18 billion US dollars. Fraud detection, 17 billion US dollars. Dosage error reduction, 16 billion US dollars. Connected machines, 14 billion US dollars. Clinical trial participant identification, 13 billion US dollars. Preliminary diagnosis, 5 billion US dollars. Automated image diagnosis, 3 billion. And then cyber security, around 2 billion. So totally around 140 billion US dollars can be saved as per this particular estimate, which is a huge amount. 140 billion dollars annually. Probably actually it is more than the economy of some of the least developed countries, African or maybe other countries actually. So precisely because of that reason, one can imagine how much of the use would be there of the artificial intelligence in the field of the medicine or the healthcare system. But it is not a picture perfect scenario. So until now, what I have discussed seems to be a kind of actually a fascination, and we might think that, oh, great, it's great, so therefore use of artificial intelligence would result in a tremendous improvement, or maybe actually this is going to replace the human system in the field of medicine. All these kind of actually thinkings might come to our mind. But I should say that it is not free from the problems. There are a lot of concerns which are also there with respect to the use of artificial intelligence in the field of medicine. Can you please go to the next slide? Right. The first major thing which I should say from the legal point of view is the errors and the question of liability. As I told, the entire system is based on algorithms. We have to program it. Data has to be fed for the purpose of learning by the device. But how accurate would be this data? How accurate would be this data? This is really problematic, because initially when this particular programming is basically done, say hypothetically it's being developed in the United States, one program is being developed in the United States. The programmer might actually take data from maybe 50 hospitals, or he may take 100 hospitals, data from 100 hospitals. But these 100 hospitals, the patients who come there might be having a particular kind of a feature. Say hypothetically, these 100 hospitals are the big hospitals in the major cities. So the population which is represented by this data would be only from those cities, or those who are having the urban living. They were exposed to the urban living, and not the people from the rural areas, or even not the people from other parts of the world. This is primarily the data which may be in the United States only in the major cities and not in other parts of the world. It might represent certain section of the society. It might represent a certain race. It might also represent a certain sect or a certain sex. So, in that circumstances, the computer or the artificial intelligence device would be developing a particular pattern or a particular logic on the basis of whatever data which has been fed to it. But that logic or that pattern is not true with respect to actually the other parts of the world or other populations. That would be a wrong, that would result in the wrong conclusions with respect to other populations because they have a different feature, are they of a different race or sect or something like that. So precisely because of that reason, what is logical for one section of the society is not logical for the other section of the society. But the computer would not understand that. It would rely only on the data, whatever has been fed to it in the process of learning. And more significantly, another problem is about the question, who is feeding this data? Who is doing this process? Is this done by a doctor? Absolutely no. The programming or the feeding of data is going to be done by a computer engineer or a programmer, not by a doctor. And of course, he's going to take data from different hospitals. He's going to take data from the medical fraternity itself while feeding. But while feeding, he would be feeding whatever he has understood from the medical fraternity. And there is a difference between the medical fraternity feeding the data and medical fraternity giving the data to a third person and that person feeding the data. Because it depends on his level of understanding of the data or maybe level of analysis of the data, whatever has been provided by the medical fraternity. So that is the very reason why there is a possibility for bias in the feeding process itself, which has been considered by most of the scholars as the real problem in use of the artificial intelligence in the field of medicine. Second, there is a possibility of commercial exploitation. I'm not saying that the medicine has not become commercial at present. It has become enormously commercial even at present. Probably the people living in the city can feel the impact. One-time hospitalization would result in actually the kind of lack of it. The current scenario itself, maybe in the COVID-19, the private hospitals in Kolkata are charging more than 15 lakhs for just a 2 weeks isolation. Just a 2 weeks isolation. So that clearly shows how much of the exploit or commercialization has been done currently of the medicine. And one of the key aspects in this process of commercialization, of course, something which is very, very bad at present, is that the hospital would first find out the financial status of the patient. And almost all the treatments or maybe say testing, etc., all these things should be done on the basis of the financial capability. All prescriptions are done on the basis of the financial capability of the patient. How much soever is affordable to him, they would try to get it from the patient, and they would go a step beyond also, try to get more than that. Whatever is not affordable to the patient also, they would try to get it. So that's how the commercialization process has started in the field of medicine. But with the use of artificial intelligence, it is going to aggravate further. The reason is that the artificial intelligence can be used for the purpose of finding out the financial status of the person with a better accuracy. With the data, whatever is available. So what is the salary of the person? What is the family status or societal status of the person? Right? What is actually the insurance coverage? How much of the insurance coverage he or she is having? All these data will be available at single go with the artificial intelligence technology, and it can predict in a better way as to how much of the extraction can be done from each patient. So that is why there is every possibility of actually commercial exploitation. That's one of the fears with respect to the artificial intelligence in the field of medicine. Next, we also have the problem in terms of new diseases. As I told, the artificial intelligence requires the feeding of data. Initial programming is something required. If a new disease comes into existence, if the artificial intelligence technology is testing that, it is going to result in the wrong diagnosis. I'm not saying that the doctors would be able to test at the first go itself. They would also be they would also be actually doing the wrong diagnosis in the initial stages. But they would be able to learn in a very short span of time if at all actually the similar symptoms are being repeated in multiple patients. They can learn from them, and they can actually logically consider that, oh, this might be a different disease than what is already existing. But the computer would not do that. Artificial intelligence would not do that. You need to feed the data once again for them, for the purpose of understanding and creating a logic with respect to that disease. Until that point of time, it would result in wrong diagnosis. Maybe the classic example is the COVID-19 itself. If a COVID-19 patient is being tested by an artificial intelligence technology, it might ultimately say in all cases that it is the common fever, viral fever, or maybe some other, couple of other symptoms. It would not suggest that it's so serious as the corona, and it might not actually say that there is a requirement of taking a better care or maybe actually the isolation, all these kind of things. So that's why in case of new diseases, or maybe in case of multiple diseases, also there is a possibility for the wrong diagnosis by the machine. Next, there is also possibility of mechanical errors which might be committed in the process of actually the treatment. This may be because of the wrong programming, feeding of the wrong data or whatever it may be. This might also be because of the fact that the people who are administering this device might have also actually done some mistakes. Consequently, there might be errors which might happen out of the artificial intelligence technology. Now, the question in those circumstances is about the issue of liability. About the issue of liability. In the field of medicine, one of the commonly argued issue is the medical negligence. The patient should actually file a suit. Of course, in the western part of the world, it has become a common phenomenon. After actually the patient comes out of the hospital, he is going to sue the doctor and the hospital administration for the negligence. Even now, in India also actually this has started. You can find especially in the major cities that a lot of cases are coming up regarding the medical negligence. Now, if the AI is used in terms of the medicine, how do you determine the medical negligence? And more importantly, if somebody is held liable, who is going to pay the compensation? Who has to be held liable for this? Should it be the doctor or a hospital staff who has used the artificial intelligence technology? Or should it be the hospital which may be liable under the vicarious liability, or maybe because of the fact that it has purchased this particular device and allowed the doctors to use it? Or should it be the programmer, the person who has initially fed the data? Who should be liable to pay the compensation in case of a medical negligence suit? This is really a complicated issue, and already the Indian courts have made a mess of the medical negligence cases, and it is going to be further complicated. Currently, you must be aware that most of these medical negligence cases are fought before the consumer fora, the district as well as the state consumer fora. We had a project on the medical negligence in West Bengal, of course, which has been sponsored by the Judicial Academy itself. And we found that in most of the cases, the consumer fora, whatever has actually decided the case, did not even have a proper logic as to why did they arrive at a particular conclusion. Even though they take certain evidences from the doctors, what happens is that both the parties usually actually take the evidences or maybe the expert opinions from the doctors in support of their case. The patient would get evidences, maybe opinion from 5 doctors who say that whatever treatment is given by the earlier doctor who treated the patient is wrong. On the other hand, the defendant doctor would also give evidences from 5 other colleagues of him which show that actually his treatment is proper, his way of treatment is proper. So precisely because of that reason, the consumer fora are clueless with respect to the decision making in case of medical negligence cases. And this kind of a problem is going to aggravate if at all the artificial intelligence technology is completely used in the field of the medicine. I think the whatever dilemma with the consumer fora is having, or maybe whatever problems which the consumer fora is facing in terms of actually the decision making process are going to be multiplied several times in the course of time with the artificial intelligence technology. Next slide, please. Medical negligence has also got another nuance, that is the negligence under the criminal law. Under the Indian law, Section 304A of the Indian Penal Code can also be invoked in the circumstances of a medical negligence, resulting especially in the death. Section 304A speaks about the Rash and Negligent Act, resulting in the death, which is subject to the punishment. Now, for all these things, one of the key factors under the criminal law is that there should be a mens rea, or there should be an intention to commit a wrong, or there should be at least a knowledge that a particular wrong, a particular damage would be caused with the particular activity. So that is the essential element of the criminal law. But in case of artificial intelligence technology resulting in certain wrong, causing injury to the patient, one of the crucial questions is that whether this mens rea is present for the purpose of holding anyone accountable under the criminal law. Right? So whether this is available, whether it is a knowledgeable act or whether there's actually an intentional act to cause the injury or the death is something very crucial, and it would be a matter of debate before the courts of law. So in the field of criminal law, probably we would be seeing a kind of a sea change if the artificial intelligence technology is completely used for the medicine. Next slide, please. Privacy threats. In the artificial intelligence technology, a large quantum of the personal data would be at the disposal of the computer. So the whatever data which has been given by the patient would be actually collected by the computer, and it would store almost forever unless it is deleted by some human intervention. It might be existing there for the ever. And this is always subject to the threat of hacking, as all of us know that all computers, whatever kind of actually the software we devise for the purpose of, designed for the purpose of actually protecting the data, still it is subject to the hacking. Hackers are so intelligent that actually they can develop the hacking the software even in advance before actually the security system comes into place. So therefore, there is always actually a threat of hacking, which might be problematic because the privacy would be at compromise in the circumstances wherein the personal data has been disseminated or lost. Next, patient lack of trust. Another crucial problem in the field of medicine. Even though the doctor-patient relationship is considered to be a kind of a fiduciary relationship, and the patient has to reveal everything to the doctor in good faith, one of the major problems is that patients would not reveal everything to the doctor. There are certain things which the patients would like to keep it for themselves because it is too private for them. They would not actually want to divulge even to the doctor because there is a possibility of a compromise of that. Somebody else might know about it. Some humiliation might happen out of that. So they may make limited disclosure about their problems or about their actually symptoms of a particular disease. Of course, even in the normal course also, it might result in a wrong diagnosis or wrong result. But usually what happens is that the doctors can read the facial expression of the patient in the one-to-one interaction, and they can gauge certain things, they can identify certain things over and above what has been revealed by the patient. So accordingly, probably they can basically better treat on the basis of their one-to-one interaction. But whereas actually the device is concerned, or maybe the computer is concerned, it is not going to do that. What happens is that whatever actually the data has been fed to the computer, on the basis of that, it would give a particular kind of a logical reasoning, which might result in wrong results as well. Next, artificial intelligence may also predict certain undisclosed data, and which might be to the detriment of the people, also the detriment of the patient. For example, if say ABCD are the causes for say HIV/AIDS, like say for example use of common syringe or maybe blood transfusion, drugs, or maybe even actually the drug with the help of the syringes, and also even maybe the sex. So if the patient says that he never had a sexual intercourse outside the marriage bond, or he never took any drugs, he also never had any history of actually the blood transfusion, or maybe actually he also says that he doesn't recollect any accident wherein actually anyone else's blood has also gone inside his body. If he says all these things, the computer might predict that there are certain things which he is basically not disclosing, and it might end up in having a false conclusion that it is because of actually the sexual intercourse or maybe because of the drug abuse. It might store it like that instead of actually any other, it might end up in actually having this conclusion because this person is not accepting anything else. Probably he has forgotten a cut or a wound which he had sometime quite earlier in his the life, and also actually the blood being somebody else's blood being contacted consequent to that. Now the computer may predict something which may be against even the reputation of the person. Right? He might not have involved in those kind of activities ever in his life, but data which is predicted by the computer or artificial intelligence technology might be detrimental to the reputation of the person himself. Next, what happens to the data after the life of the patient is also a crucial question. It's also a crucial question because there is something called right to be forgotten. After the life of a person, certain things which the person might have done in his the lifetime, it needs to be forgotten. Maybe the concerned person himself, if he was alive, he wanted that to be forgotten. If not, the subsequent generation, that his family members or her family members would definitely want it to be forgotten, and they don't want themselves to be tagged with such kind of a wrong whatever has been committed by their ancestors. So therefore, right to be forgotten is something which has been strongly established or developing in different societies. Unfortunately, in the computer data or maybe artificial intelligence the system, this might be stored forever. It might be stored somewhere forever. And at any point of time, somebody may dig that particular data, and ultimately the family member's reputation might be at stake by virtue of actually digging that data. So that's also another major privacy threat which is existing in the use of artificial intelligence in the field of medicine. Next slide, please. Next slide, yes, yeah. There are many other concerns as well, which I will just quickly wrap on. Something which is always missing in the treatment through the artificial intelligence is the emotional touch. While giving the medicine is important for a disease, at the same point of time, emotional touch of the doctor is also important for the purpose of the healing of the healing, or maybe for the purpose of actually coming out of the disease. All of us might have heard certain patients saying that certain doctors are actually so skillful that even a touch of the doctor would result in curing the disease. Even a touch of the doctor would result in curing the disease. That's a kind of an emotional bond which is existing between the patient and the doctor. And that emotional bond would be missing in case of artificial intelligence. And it has been proven that such an emotional bond has been really useful in the better treatment and the early cure of the disease. It is not just the medicine, but also that psychological feeling that, oh, yeah, I'm under the treatment of a particular doctor who is very, very skillful. So I will be coming out of this particular disease. That is something actually very crucial for the purpose of treatment as well, which is not available in the artificial intelligence. There is also concerns of the personal autonomy, right? In the process of treatment, there is also something which has to be respected by the medical fraternity. That's the personal autonomy of the patient. In most of the cases, artificial intelligence technology would make a decision which would not respect the personal autonomy of the person. And it might not be actually in the best interest of the patient also in the totality of the circumstances. Because for the artificial intelligence technology, A plus B, if it is fed as C, it would remain as C throughout. It cannot become D. Even if actually the circumstances are different, even if actually the patient has a particular kind of a willingness, still artificial intelligence technology would not recognize it as D. So give a simple example. Probably if a person is suffering from extreme trauma and the person might be having the difficulty to such an extent that he would like to end his life. Maybe he doesn't want the continuation of the treatment and he would like to have a peaceful death, which is the part of the personal autonomy of the person. It's a part of the personal autonomy of the person. But unfortunately, what happens with the artificial intelligence technology is that it would never accept that. Rather, it would say that we have to continue the treatment. We have to continue the treatment to such an extent that actually even if the person doesn't want to continue the treatment, want to have a peaceful death, that peaceful death is not given by the artificial intelligence technology. So that's why the respect for the personal autonomy might not be there if you use the artificial intelligence technology. Another problem, the job losses. Of course, there will be enormous amount of job loss if the artificial intelligence technology is used extensively in the medicine. Currently, the statistics shows that every year 2 lakh artificially intelligence enabled devices are being, they are being employed in the hospital. So given that factor, we can count how many people are losing the job. Probably more than 2 lakhs, definitely, because of the reason that these technologies are capable of actually doing the work of more than one person. So therefore, probably 4 to 5 lakh people every year is losing the job in the field of medicine alone, which is a real problem, and especially in the high population country like India, where we don't have any breadth of the labor force. Probably the problem would be much more. And over dependence on the artificial intelligence is also said to be another major reason for the decreased human knowledge and capacity. I think the slides have gone off. Is it workable? Is it possible to actually bring it back? Anyone from the, yes. Okay. It's gone off again.
It's visible, sir. Sir, it is clear from our end, sir.
Pardon me?
It is clear from our end. It's visible.
Okay, now it's coming. Now it's coming. Yes. Okay, so the over dependence on the artificial intelligence is also creating the problem because actually it is expected that there will be a decrease in the human knowledge and capacity. What happens is that the doctors would rely more and more on artificial intelligence for different things, and consequently they would think in the process of actually their learning that certain things are not essential for them to understand because the artificial intelligence would do that. Especially in, say, for example, radiology. Most of the people who are undertaking the training for the radiology, they might think that 50% of the job would be done by the artificial intelligence. And therefore, they would not even understand them, they would not even actually study them in their course. So precisely because of that reason, there is a common belief in the international level that the over dependence on artificial intelligence would certainly decrease the human knowledge and capacity, which is really problematic when you look from the point of view of the field of medicine. Can you go to the next slide, please? Right. So I have outlined actually different problems or the concerns in the use of the artificial intelligence. But at the same point of time, in my concluding remarks, let me tell you that use of the artificial intelligence is not something to be completely stopped. It's not something to be actually said to be not to be used at all. Because in the modern period of time, it has almost become indispensable. It is a need of the hour, especially given the fact that we are having the scarcity of the doctors and also even the medical staff. You know how many problems have arisen in this COVID-19, especially because we have a huge problem in terms of actually the medical staff or the doctors. So we have actually very few doctors for a few thousands of population. So given that the particular factor, use of the artificial intelligence in the medicine is absolutely required. It is very, very useful in terms of the record keeping and the maintenance because it would save a lot of time for the doctors and medical or paramedical staff for doing their duty. If you look at present, many doctors and the medical staff are completely busy with keeping the records. They are completely busy with the documentation, taking consent, etc. This is because they want to prepare themselves to defend in a case of a possible suit of medical negligence. Nowadays, actually, it has so happened that the medical negligence case can be filed against any doctor at any point of time or any hospital at any point of time. What is very crucial before the court of law is the document. The testimony of the doctor or maybe others would not hold good. What is more important is the document with respect to the treatment. And in many cases, what we have seen in our project is that the cases have been lost simply because the doctor was not having the proper document before the court of law. So that's why nowadays the doctors and medical staffs are spending more time in proper documentation, writing down every prescription in longer, the details, what are the symptoms, etc. They're all doing it, and also they are keeping the records of that. And this eats up a lot of time of the doctors and medical staff. Instead of doing the work of treating the patient, they would be busy with this. But with the use of artificial intelligence technology, probably all these things can be avoided, and the technology can take care of all these record keeping, maintenance, mining of the records, all these the things, and doctors and medical staff can devote more time for the purpose of treating the patient. Next, it is also really useful in terms of the diagnosis and treatment. As I told earlier itself, early detection and the initial treatment itself would help a lot in terms of curing many of the diseases. So that's why it's really useful in the diagnosis and the treatment. But what we have to keep in mind is that artificial intelligence is a supplement and not a substitute. We can't consider it as a substitute for actually the human beings or the medical staff. It is just a supplement which can help in terms of actually doing all these kind of things, so that the medical staff can devote more time for the actual work of treatment. I would like to conclude with a statement in this regard by Dr. Brand, one of the very renowned the doctors of the United States, wherein he says that I think my profession is headed towards evolution and not towards extinction. So it is very right that actually the doctor's profession is not headed towards headed towards extinction. We can't actually completely replace the doctors or medical staff or paramedical staff with the intelligence technology. But of course, artificial intelligence technology can supplement, and the medical profession can have a kind of an evolution out of the use of the artificial intelligence technology. That's all. Let me conclude. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. There are two questions asked by Syed Kader.
I'm not hearing you properly. Can you just, yeah, okay.
There are
Maybe
two questions from
right.
Syed Kader.
Okay.
One regarding if there is any disclosure of any disease to another doctor by a doctor or any other person, will it attract any penalty?
No, it depends on actually the circumstances. If you look into the Indian judicial judgment, it is primarily for the purpose of actually the better treatment of the patient. Like say, for example, a particular doctor consults with a specialist in that particular area for the purpose of better treatment of a patient, then definitely it would not result in any kind of a liability or the penalty, right? So it would be considered to be part of the process of treatment. But on the contrary, if this disclosure is simply for the purpose of actually, say, for example, making somebody else to know about certain conditions which the patient doesn't want to reveal it, then the liability would arise in those cases.
Yes, sir. And another
Yes.
question is regarding all these AI and regenerating organs, all these, do they come under the purview of medicines or do they come under the purview of machines?
So they would come under the purview of the machines itself, right? So they are the devices. They are the different devices. So we have say medicine industry is more in terms of actually the say tablets or injections, etc. They would be the thing. But there is another sector which is called as medical device industry. Medical device industry might be on the one hand those which are used for the purpose of diagnosis, right? The devices, or on the other hand the devices which are used for the purpose of supplementing certain organs, right? So they would all come under the medical device industry.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
If there is any other question also, I am open to that.
No, sir. Nothing much.
Okay. Okay then. Thank you so much.
I would like to convey my thanks to our today's reader, yes, but sir, thank you very much for being our resource today, and I thank all the participants as well as readers for being so lenient in this entire presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege for me.
Yes, sir.